2452 AD, 20 years after the fall of Ga Revorse, mankind has once again ventured into the vastness of space, filled with infinite possibility. On a mission exploring uncharted territory, a boy living in his father's shadow through the whims of fate crosses paths with a girl of mysterious origin. Together, they investigate the calamities that threaten the inhabitants of Planet Expel. Step into the shoes of Claude Kenny and Raina Lanford as they embark on a journey of self-realization and uncover the secrets of the past. Once more, two unlikely heroes heed the call to save the universe as they discover new worlds beyond the stars. Welcome to Star Ocean, the second story R. Hey everyone, welcome back. And boy did this game took the world by storm. Before the announcement of this remake, all we ever wanted was for the second game to be ported to modern platforms, just as they did with the first. But to everybody's surprise, Square Enix went and said like, you know what? We can do better. Let's just remake the game. As to my take in a nutshell, Square Enix, gem drops, well done. This remake is sublime. If you haven't caught on with the title of this video, Star Ocean the Second Story R is phenomenal. So please support this game if you have not already. The passion and dedication put into this remake is simply amazing. So without further ado, let's get started. The story begins 2 decades after the events of Star Ocean First Departure, where Ronix Kenny, a protagonist of the first game, has been promoted to Admiral and is on a mission to scout the planet Milokenia with his son and one of this game's protagonists, Claude Kenny. During exploration, they encounter a strange device, and Claude, given his enthusiasm to prove his worth, ignores standard precautions and approaches the device, warping him to an unknown location separated from Ronix and the crew. As Claude tries to figure out where he ended up, he intercepts a girl in peril and saves her life. The girl is grateful to Claude and reveals herself to be Raina Lanford, the second protagonist of the game. As the two become acquainted, Claude discovers that he has been transported to the planet Expel, while Raina incorrectly assumes Claude as the hero of light in the legends. With their fates intertwined, the adventure begins as Claude and Raina unravel the root cause of the disasters in Expel and beyond. And I will leave the story there. For newcomers, get ready for a treat. And for veterans rediscovering this masterpiece, this is without a doubt the definitive experience. The game has been reworked from the ground up, save 3 components: the story, the character models, and the voice acting. The plot and character models remain intact from its initial launch on the PlayStation 1 all the way back in 1998. This hits 2 birds in one stone. For one, it makes players feel they are playing the original game, while 2, also feeling fresh by upgrading all other visual components. In short, it feels like playing a new game, but also respecting the integrity of the original release. Voice acting originates from the PSP release Star Ocean Second Evolution back in 2009, which is significantly better in both quality and quantity from the original voice work of the PS1. And that is where the similarities end for this version of the game and its predecessors. Everything else from here on was developed from scratch with love, passion, and a beautiful culmination of listening to fan feedback. Let's start off with the most obvious upgrade the moment you boot up the game: the graphics. Following the footsteps of Octopath Traveler and Triangle Strategy, Star Ocean the Second Story R blends 2D pixelated art and gorgeous 3D rendered structures and environments that result in a truly breathtaking, vibrant visual experience. Yes, modern-day graphics need not always be photorealistic or top of the line for it to be eye candy. And I sincerely believe more games need to follow this style and direction. From the lighting and particle effects to the various flora and fauna, each section of the game world has been redesigned with meticulous detail. Towns, households, forests, swamps, caverns, snowy mountains, machine constructs, wherever your journey takes you, expect each location to pop in ways like never before. Spells and abilities have also been recreated to add more flair and impact. On top of this, frame rates are buttery smooth and consistent in my entire playthrough, so not only does the game look better, but also plays better. Character portraits of major characters also receive an overhaul, looking more detailed than ever, taking advantage of modern technologies. While they could have rendered 3D models, I appreciate the developers sticking with hand-drawn aesthetics to not alienate the fanbase of the original game. The user interface has also received a fresh coat of paint. Texts are now larger, have a higher resolution, and a better color scheme, making it easier and more pleasant in the eyes. If you have played the original PS1 or PSP iteration, no doubt you will appreciate how much effort was put into the visual overhaul. I would go as far as to say for hardcore fans, this component alone already justifies the asking price of this remake. Without question, Star Ocean: The Second Story R is a visual masterpiece, and this will be the bare minimum I expect from Square Enix's remakes moving forward. But graphics are not the only component that was reworked. Gemdrops was not satisfied with simply overhauling the visual fidelity, but also the background music. Once again, Motoi Sakuraba makes a return to demonstrate that he is a master of composing some of the most memorable video game music to ever grace JRPGs. Every soundtrack of Star Ocean: The Second Story R has been reorchestrated, and it is just as pleasing to the ears, or even better than I remember. And for hardcore players who prefer the original tracks, fear not, as Gemdrops has your back, because you can simply go to the menu to revert back to the originals should you wish. The same can be said with the voice acting. I mentioned earlier that this was one of the components that was taken straight from the PSP release of the game. If you find the English voices not to your liking, then you may switch to the Japanese voices in the menu. Every aspect of the player experience has been considered, and I salute Gemdrops for their dedication to making this game the best that it can be. And now to the heart and soul of every video game, the one criterion to rule them all, and that is of course the gameplay. Gemdrops hands down has nailed it. The core gameplay of Star Ocean: The Second Story R somehow retains the feel of the original PS1 game, while at the same time feeling fresh. There are tons of refinements and added features that truly makes this a spectacular title, so let's dive right in. Star Ocean: The Second Story R is rich with gameplay enhancements and robust quality of life features that make the game far more beginner-friendly for those new to the saga, and ultimately more fun to play than the previous iterations. For the benefit of newcomers, Star Ocean: The Second Story R is an action role-playing game where you begin by selecting to play as either Claude or Reina. Do not worry if you feel you picked the wrong character, as you get them both in the beginning. The difference between the two characters are the cutscenes, and each of them have one exclusive recruitable party member, meaning if you choose Claude, you'll be locked from obtaining one party member that is exclusive to Reina, and vice versa. Everything else remains intact, so no need to contemplate too hard on your preference, as the game is designed to encourage you to play through it at least twice. To not make this video too long, let me quickly explain what the remake has done to improve the party member system. There are a total of 12 recruitable party members, and you can only recruit a maximum of 6 per playthrough, meaning you will have to play the game at least twice to experience playing all of them. For newbies, take note that recruiting some party members will soft lock you from getting other recruitable members. In addition, some of them can only be recruited quite late into the story. And assuming you have already recruited 6 members prior, you will not be able to recruit that specific party member late in the game. Essentially, what I am trying to say is if you want to recruit all possible party members within 2 playthroughs, I strongly recommend doing your research in advance to ensure you do not miss recruiting particular party members. Now to the long overdue quality of life improvement that has finally been implemented in this remake for the private actions and endings. Private actions are cutscenes with party members that you can unlock when visiting towns. In the prior entries of the game, it is incredibly tedious to find private actions as you do not know when or where they will take place. But thanks to the exemplary overhaul of the UI, it is now very easy to spot in the world map if there are private actions that can be triggered. Why is this a critical improvement? Because private actions increase or decrease your relationship level among your party members, which in turn will affect the ending you will receive upon completion of the main story. In the PS1 and PSP iterations of the game, it is next to impossible to unlock all the ideal endings you wish to obtain. But thanks to the transparency and overhaul of the user interface, obtaining your preferred ending can now be easily unlocked. Whether through private actions or using crafted items to tweak your party's relationship with one another, it is now feasible to unlock all whopping 99 endings in the game, which, for a fun fact, I never knew there were that many possible endings until the release of this remake. Unless you're a completionist, I highly suggest to just obtain the specific endings you want. For those looking to obtain all trophies or achievements, you will only need at least 15 out of the 99 endings. I am just scratching the surface of the amount of massive upgrades in gameplay, so to organize my thoughts, I have divided this segment into two categories: non-combat and combat improvements. Now let's start with the former. The numerous additions and improvements during exploration in Star Ocean: The Second Story R have truly made the game accessible to a new audience, as well as making it more engaging for veteran players to complete. For one, the user interface gets a much needed overhaul. I already tackled a little bit of this earlier, but it can't be said enough. This change exponentially increases the fun factor of the entirety of the game. All information that you need to play the game effectively and efficiently is now presented with well-explained and timely tutorials, a feature that was non-existent in the original release. Back in the PS1 days, you are simply thrown in the game and hope you figure out all available features on your own. Thankfully, this has rightfully and masterfully been amended in this remake. No longer will you be left wondering what certain abilities do or what is the impact of leveling particular stats. Every aspect is now explained to you in great detail and when you need it to mitigate information overload. Unlocking new features and enhancing abilities has also become more transparent, as all information you need to know will be presented to help ensure you are making optimal decisions when developing your party. As discussed earlier, the world map also receives the same love and care. As you progress in the game, you can easily check if there are new quests, cutscenes, and private actions at a press of a button, which is a godsend. In the PS1 and PSP iterations, you will need to revisit all the towns and pray that you manage to find something new, or else it was just time wasted, but definitely no longer in this remake. And speaking of revisits, a major new quality of life feature, fast travel, is now in this remake, making it far more efficient to traverse around the game world. Trust me when I say, this is a much welcome time saver that cuts tremendous tediousness of the original game. If you are a purist, you may opt not to use the feature, but for everybody else, this is a huge win. Item creation, which is the game's equivalent of crafting, is now more robust by taking cues from Star Ocean: The Divine Force and made even better. Thanks to the robust new UI, it is now more intuitive to create desired items or equipment, as again, most information you will need can be seen on the screen. For added depth, a new feature called Super Specialty has been introduced in this remake. This in essence is creating items as a party rather than a single member, allowing access to more items and gameplay features. Super Specialties can be performed provided multiple members have the same specific item creation skills and proficiency. Fishing fans rejoice, as Star Ocean: The Second Story R now has the beloved feature. As long as there's a body of water, you'll be able to do fishing to your heart's content. There's even a tier level of types of fish, from common to rare. Fishing yields various rewards upon showing your collection to a particular NPC. As an added incentive to utilize these features, there's now a reward system for this remake in the form of guild quests and missions, whereby fulfilling tasks such as creating items or engaging into battle a certain number of times will yield rewards such as money or added attribute points to utilize for your party. Suffice to say, the system has been reworked in such a way that there's always a new objective to reach to further strengthen your party, making it difficult to stop playing the game. Exploring the world is also much more intuitive with the availability of the minimap. Again, unlike the PS1 and PSP versions of the game, it is now easier to navigate dungeons as the minimap will indicate if a path leads to a dead end, rather than having to guess which path to take first, saving you a significant amount of time. Later in the game, you can even unlock an ability where you can see where chests are located in the minimap, saving you even more time when exploring towns and dungeons. In summary, the non-combat segments of this remake have improved exponentially, and I for one am truly impressed by how much gem drops took into account fan feedback. And now for the final segment, let's talk about combat. I know I keep repeating myself when I say things have been greatly enhanced, but really there's no other way for me to say it. But this game was truly developed out of passion. One of the most prominent changes in combat, which veterans will immediately recognize, is that Star Ocean: The Second Story R no longer has random encounters. Instead, battles are triggered when coming into contact with enemies found in the field, which admittedly is one of my major gripes in the prior entries, especially when you only want to reach your destination without having to fight. Enemies found in the field fall under three categories: green, which indicates it is weak, purple, which is on par with your party's strength, and red, which indicates it is a strong opponent. So unlike random battles where you do not know what you are up against, thanks to the new system, you can now be strategic whether to engage an opponent or not. Later in the game, you will unlock an ability known as scouting. This enables you to either increase the number of opponents in the field or decrease them if you are not looking to fight. The benefit of increasing opponents is that you get into battles very quickly, as well as perform what is called chain battles. Chain battles activate when you engage with more than one opponent in the field that are in close proximity. You can link and stack up to 5 opponents in chain battles, resulting in 5 waves of combat. The reason you would want to do this is that fighting opponents consecutively will increase the multiplier of rewards such as experience, money, battle points, and skill points. To give you an idea of how easily you can take advantage of this feature, I was only around halfway into the main story, and I chose to grind a couple of hours using chain battles, and I quickly ascended to levels over 100, which is definitely way too overpowered at that point in the story. Another new feature that will be introduced late in the game are raids. These are powerful stationary monsters in the field that yield great rewards should you defeat them. These battles are not in the original game, and I highly recommend to only engage them after the main story or if your party is very combat proficient. And when I mean proficient, around levels 150 and beyond with some of the best equipment in the game. And if you want to feel even more godlike, this remake has a new game plus that carries over literally all your progress, save story items that is not available in the original game. Finally, let us now talk about the combat itself. And boy, is it now more robust than ever. Not only is it more fine-tuned and responsive, but new mechanics have been added for more complexity and depth. Firstly, life gauges can now be seen on top of opponents, enabling players to determine if an opponent is about to be defeated. In addition, Star Ocean the Second Story R's combat now features a break system and bonus gauge. The break system is simply a shield that is on top of the enemy's life gauge, which upon depletion will leave the enemy stunned, allowing you to perform massive damage on the opponent or even outright defeat them. Attacking stunned opponents will also yield more spheres that will feed your bonus gauge, giving you more perks in battle. The bonus gauge is a 3-tier perk system found on the lower right of the screen, where depending on the formation you choose in battle, will give the party added perks once you accumulate enough spheres by fighting and defeating enemies, such as added experience, money, and more. This mechanic not only introduces a new feature to the game, but also enriches an old one. And by that I am pertaining to the formation mechanic, where in the original game, this only served to provide placement of your party in battle, which hardly served any purpose. But in this remake, formations now provide perks for the party, allowing players to be strategic on which formation to use in combat. Do note that formations now need to be unlocked, in contrast to all of them being available outright in the original game. Returning to the bonus gauge, while a great incentive to play efficiently, players need to be careful as you may lose the perks should you prove to make mistakes, such as getting ambushed from behind or having the character you control in battle become incapacitated. The final major feature in combat is the assault action system, which can be found on the lower left of the screen, where you can call party members not in battle to support you in combat. This is very helpful, especially when you are in a tight spot and can change the tide of battle should you use it wisely. You can map up to 4 assault actions and customize which ability will be used by the inactive party member in the menu. You can only use one assault action at a time and wait for a cooldown to use them once again. A neat Easter egg for this feature is that you can collect what is called jewels to unlock characters from the other Star Ocean games to use the assault action. While not full-on party members, they do provide great support as an assault action, and is a nice touch from the development team to pay tribute to the other games. So at the end of it all, given all these new features in combat, is this remake tougher than the original? I would say yes and no. For starters, you will need to be more strategic as enemies are smart enough to flank you and status effects are noticeably easier to inflict on your party. However, for veterans, all the tricks that you remember on how to create overpowered builds remain intact with this remake. Heck, some of those tricks are even more effective here, and perhaps there are even new ones that were not present in the original game. I admittedly used the exploit to get one of Claude's strongest weapons in the game very early, and I ended up annihilating all that stood in my path for the rest of the game. It would depend on how far you want to break your playthrough, or if you want to play the game quote-unquote legitimately. Regardless however you want to play, I guarantee that you will enjoy your experience with Star Ocean the Second Story R. And in the end, that is all that matters, right? And here we are wrapping up this video. Please stay tuned until the end to find out which game I'll be covering next. Star Ocean the Second Story R is a love letter for fans of the franchise, and I am incredibly glad that Square Enix put behind the resources and entrusted to a development team that is passionate and dedicated like Gem Drops. The visuals look fantastic, resembling the original game, while feeling fresh and appealing for newcomers. The music has been reworked by the original composer Motoi Sakuraba, who once again demonstrates his ability to create memorable soundtracks. The gameplay is packed with ginormous amount of features that makes it quite clear that the development team truly loves the original game and saw to it to make this remake the best that it can be. Star Ocean the Second Story R is a must-have for longtime fans, and is the definitive game to enter the saga for newcomers. If you even remotely love JRPGs, trust me, you are doing yourself a disservice by skipping this one out. It is very hard to put down. Again, Square Enix, Gem Drops, thank you and congratulations for a job well done. I could not have asked for a better triumphant return for this game, and I hope it does well enough to warrant a remake for Star Ocean till the end of time. Fingers crossed. With that said, that concludes this video. Thank you for sticking around, and do consider subscribing for more content. Happy JRPG gaming, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.
Next stop is Iwatodai.
That's the dark hour, a time period hidden between one day and the next.